This is Lisa Niver, and I am the author of Bravish, One Breakup, Six Continents, and Feeling Fearless After 50. And I am so beyond thrilled and excited to be here today with Beth. Hello, Beth. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Oh my goodness. I've been researching you, and it is hard
Love
to
it.
sum you up because
Yeah.
you are a force of nature, literally. I appreciate that your social media is called Maximum Beth because I think you are constantly at maximum capacity. What you've accomplished for women, and I know you focus a lot about women in travel, but I think that you are really changing women in business and women entrepreneurship for everyone. So thank you.
Aw, I really appreciate that. That's really sweet. And yeah, Maximum Beth was what they called me in college, so the name stuck. And I guess I just like to keep busy, I guess.
Well, one of the things I noticed since you brought up college, let's start there, is that you have a lot of places that you worked in conjunction. Like being, I think, in a cappella is a very specific kind of music where everyone's piece makes a big
Mm.
difference. And you
Yeah.
really have to bring everyone along or it doesn't work.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's an interesting insight because yes, I also did crew in college, which is very similar to that. It's like everyone works as a team, everyone has to, put in their unique part and you make something. And that's how I've always viewed leadership, honestly, and running a business is like you are salesperson number one. And when I say sales, it doesn't always mean financial. It also means you have to sell this idea to every single person that works with you, who collaborates with you, and your team has to believe at least close to as passionately as you do about the work that you're doing. Otherwise, you're not going to get as far as you want to go.
I did wonder about that. I mean, how did you get involved in crew? It's a tough sport. I mean, 4:30
I
a.m.
know.
workouts, right?
And it's funny. My husband now is just like, really? You were an athlete? You like the most, hardcore workout I'll do is like pulling weeds in my garden. But no, I loved it. I actually did it in high school first, and I grew up in coastal New Hampshire, and so you would do anything, any kind of workout if you saw the view that I went out with. And we would do afternoon workouts, we were kids. So it's just something that I fell in love with. And then when I went to college, I thought, yeah, I'm going to keep this going. And I don't know, 4:30 a.m. Yeah, it's pretty rough, but also there's a lot of camaraderie in it, and to all kind of be together and to see the sunrise. And it was a really magical time in my life. I don't know if I could do it now, but I love doing it then.
Well, I do think that it's something I've read a lot of research about. A lot of women CEOs that make a big impact come from an athletic team background about understanding how to bring people together and what does coaching require.
Yeah. 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 I
And
believe that. Absolutely.
and you've brought together 100 million women with Wanderful. That is incredible.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I think it just all comes from, when we first started, and I think about this a lot because, I was in business school for a while and I was interacting with the startup ecosystem for a while. And a lot of businesses start with this idea. And then the second thing they're trying to do is they're trying to build, a customer base. And for us, it was always the opposite. It was like we always had this community and this understanding with each other. And that started from when I started blogging and was building an audience, and then kind of realized like, oh, we have all these women who are having a lot of the same pains. Let's create something that addresses that. And I think it's because of that, it just evolved so organically in its own way. And it's been really fun to just continue to, serve the community and to give them great ways to connect with each other and to feel confident and supported in travel, which isn't always how the travel industry makes us feel as women.
Absolutely. So 2009, kind of the beginning of the blog ecosystem, you started Wanderful.
Yes.
And then you came up with the summit, which is about 10 years old now, right? This is going to be the
It
10 year.
is. This is We started it, our very first one was 2014. So this year is our 10th one. And then we'll have done it for 10 full years next year.
It's really incredible. And you have, I think, 500 people came to Puerto Rico.
We did. Yes. 500. It was our biggest one. It was like 550, I think. It was big.
550 and 50 million impressions.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're our force. And
Aw.
then you invented something else new in New Orleans, right? Tell us about Wanderfest.
Wanderfest. Yes. Well, so Wanderful started, I mentioned, started as a travel blog. I was doing a lot of my own travel, developed into an online magazine, which then developed into a community. And it was actually over COVID that we leaned even more into the community aspect of things because none of us could travel anywhere and we all wanted to be, in touch with each other and to share our travel stories. And so we've really built out a lot since then. I mean, we've been evolving for forever. I feel like every year we're a different company. And Wits was something that came about kind of happenstance. It's a travel creator summit. So in 2014, we had been thinking, hey, we've started this travel blog. It's turned into something. We're seeing a lot of other people and other women that are building travel blogs. Let's bring everyone together. And then it took off. So Wits has been, now I feel like long-standing, 10 whole years, long-standing, conference that we run. And then it was a couple years ago, of course, like just before the pandemic, so that was fun, that we thought, our biggest event is a travel creator event, but actually our community is mostly travelers, just women who love to travel. We have a very outspoken and very important component of our community that's content creators and small business owners. But if you look at sheer numbers, most women are just travel lovers. And so we thought, let's bring them together and just celebrate travel and sisterhood. And we got an outdoor plaza in New Orleans. We had music. It was kind of like a celebration of travel with the context of travel being culture and being world culture and being, the experience of trying new things. So it wasn't all like travel workshops. It was, we did a second line parade. We learned about the history of the New Orleans baby dolls. We really leaned into local culture. We had music. We had the first and only all woman brass band that did like this performance that we all danced to. And we had all sorts of like small women owned businesses that had tables. And it was a lot of fun kind of bringing everyone together. So that was, the weather was not the best. It was very, very cold.
That's hard.
So that's the only thing I probably would change for the future. But everyone who showed up, it was funny. The day before the event, it was 75 and sunny. We woke up that morning and it was 39 and the wind was so strong that cinder blocks were being pushed by the wind across the stage. I mean, I'm telling you, the weather was horrible. And you sure know what a traveler is. I mean, a lot of the women, there was a mall next door and they just went to Forever 21 and bought like hats and coats and then came back and came to the festival. So it's funny, you just kind of learn like weather is weather. You travel to Rome for the first time and it's raining. You still have to go and enjoy it. You don't just say like, oh, I'll come back next time, so that's what I love about travelers.
I love that because I agree that you have to take advantage of what it is. And I think particularly as women, there's a lot of things that we can't control and we have to keep moving forward. And so for
Totally.
anyone who's listening, we'll link to all of these amazing things that Beth is talking about. But WITS is the Women in Travel Summit. Sometimes when we Google letters, it doesn't exactly come up with the right place. So that's the Women in Travel Summit and the Wanderfest. And during COVID, you invented a cafe as well.
I did. I didn't invent it. I actually took it over. It's a cafe that's been in our neighborhood in Boston for the last 15 years. And it was being sold in the middle of the pandemic. And my husband and I looked at each other with no restaurant experience whatsoever, except, waiting some tables in high school and college. and we saw a community gathering space. And I think community is something that I have always felt a calling for in my professional career. And I also feel pretty good about my business capability and knowledge. And I thought, I don't know, maybe we should do it. And we did. We took it over. We've been running it now for 2 years. It's taught us so many things. There were so many lessons to learn along the way. But I actually think it's made me a stronger business owner, even for Wanderful too, because these are two very, very different businesses. And at the core, it's about community and connection, I think, for both of them. Wanderful is online and international. Ula Cafe, which is our cafe, is in person and face to face. But I think at the end of the day, both are tools that you use to connect with others on a human level. But the business model is wildly different. And I think learning both of them so intimately has actually supported the other ones. Like we've gotten better at our marketing with the cafe. And for Wanderful, like we've understood, business economics better and been able to apply those to some of our products and services. So it's been kind of neat to be able to run both side by side. But yeah, I'll tell you, if you talk to us, the first couple months in, it was a pretty wild story, all the things that we had to learn.
Well, and different kinds of regulations and food safety and
Oh,
staffing is different.
everything was different. Yeah. And all the, you'd have the building inspector come by and we'd be like, the who? Like we just didn't even know anything about anything. And but it was great. We had a great team. I mean, I think the group that sold it to us, we were sort of the underdogs. There were a lot of other businesses that were vying for the cafe that were going to kind of break down the cafe as it stood and then reopen as a second or third store or franchise. And I think they just kind of took a bet on us. We were like local in the community. It's the cafe that's 5 minutes down the street from us. We wanted to keep it what it was and just make it better. And we made this whole pitch deck about it and what our vision was. And I like to think that people saw something in that and that our community was really excited to support that. And, that's, I think, what has carried us, and a lot of humor and patience.
Yes. Well, so we've talked about you have your hands in a lot of different businesses, and I love on your LinkedIn that one of your jobs is a very busy 168-hour a week job with a lot of details. Can you explain to people about this job you have on LinkedIn?
So a few months ago, this is actually recently that I added that. A few months ago, I actually think it was, well, we'll drop that bomb later, but I was thinking about my role as a mom, and I was like, you know what? I'm just really tired of us not giving parents the credit that they deserve for the work that they're doing. And I'm like, here I am running a household. Every time I make travel plans, I'm making plans for 4 people, like running 2 businesses and getting dinner on the table. And in kind of like a sort of not really joke, but kind of funny tongue in cheek way, just thought, I'm going to add this to my LinkedIn because this is a job too. And people have done it before. And I think I just thought, if people did that more, there's so many people who are, whether they're parents or whether they're caregivers of another kind. And we forget that we have this whole other part of our professional careers. And I think, a part of it too was me just seeing myself as, yes, it sounds like I do a lot and I do a lot, but I think I, like anyone else, I'm always comparing myself to other people and the accomplishments of other people. And I remember there were times when I'd be like, down on myself that I didn't do X, Y, or Z. And then I'd be like, but wait, I've been like raising 2 humans at the exact same time. And then I'm like, well, why am I not acknowledging, how valuable and important that work is? And so I just I forgot what I put, like mom in chief or something. I put something like that was just like, but then I decided to phrase it like a real I'm using like air quotes, real job, where I basically said, executive assistant, primary social planner, responsible for, 4 ongoing executive calendars, blah, blah, blah. Like, because that's really what it is, all the things you have to remember and do. And your brain is working a mile a minute and you get paid for nothing of it. In fact, it's pretty expensive.
I think it's brilliant. And I think that people are starting to recognize more and more. You listed it as 168 hours of unpaid labor. And I think the reason why, as parents and women, the air quotes come up is because it's not paid labor.
Mm-hmm.
And it is real work. When your child is sick or you have to take your caregiving, you have to go in the ambulance with someone, you have a different impact at work the next day because part of your brain is exhausted and
Yes.
concerned, and you're trying to make so much happen. And I think that the relationship part of our lives, we talk about in business, people work with people who they like, but the people that are closest to us in our family, somehow they don't get recognized as taking up space in our brains and our
Yeah.
day. And I loved what you did. And I agree.
Aw.
Yeah, you really wrote it out, like travel planning for 4, calendar. You have 2 kids. They're both in elementary school right now, right? Or littler.
The youngest is 2. She's just about to start daycare.
Oh, so
Yes. And then my
2.
older daughter's in first grade.
Oh, wow. So those are busy times. Like you're
Yeah.
still tying shoes for people.
Oh, yeah.
It's a high level. I'm cutting the food and I'm putting the fork in your mouth. Like, it's a lot. And it's possible you're having an addition, right?
Yes, I am. Yep. In January, we have our 3rd coming. I
Yes.
know.
It's exciting. We
And
we
we're
wish you
going
to
through it again.
Yeah, well, we wish you happy and healthy. In Hebrew, we say B'sha'a Tova, that the baby should arrive at the right time, or the baby only arrives at the right time, but healthy and a great addition. And we know that you're doing so much. And people might be thinking, wow, she's got the summit and the cafe and the fest and the blog, but you also, like me, have a book coming out.
I do.
Tell
I
us
do.
about the book.
So, and the book, again, if you hear all this stuff, I mean, I hear you saying it back to me and I'm like, God, this woman is insane. But really,
No, you're not
there's
insane. You have a
in a
lot
good
to
way. Yeah.
offer. You have a lot to offer.
But it's thank you. No, I like that. I think it's also it's where we put our time. We all have the same amount of time every day. And this for me, like I love this work. I love this travel industry. I love entrepreneurship. And so this is where I enjoy my time. When my husband and the kids went away for 2 weeks to New York to go visit grandma, I worked and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, I love this, like I'm really in not a weird way, but I really love it. And so, this book I actually started writing it years ago. I just sat down. I had this like feeling I just really wanted to, I've been writing blog posts. I was like, I have like this message I want to share about traveling by yourself. And I wrote the very first chapter, the introduction. And then I think I was pregnant with my first daughter. And then I had her, went into the whirlwind of, being a parent for the first time, and then got back into it when I was pregnant with my second child and said, I think there's something here. I really want to write this. And I just so happened, it was like the stars had aligned. I found an agent very quickly. She found a publisher very quickly. And the book deal was pretty much signed 3 weeks before I gave birth. And and it was that time that we said, this is actually good timing again for a person like me who really likes being busy. I was like, I'm going to go on maternity leave. I'm going to have a lot of just like sitting and thinking and nursing and, thoughts with myself. And I had just talked to Dr. Anu Taranath, who published a book called Beyond Guilt Trips, Mindful Travel in an Unequal World. And I was talking with her about her book, and she said she has she's a mother. She has 2 kids maybe. And she said she wrote her books 7 minutes at a time because 7 minutes a day was all she had to work on it. And hearing her say that gave me like the validation to say, you know what, I can do this. Like, I don't need to be sitting down for 10 hours a day. Granted, I did sometimes, but I felt like, okay, this is something I can actually do. And so I just started. And I just finished all of the rounds of edits and all of the back and forth with the copy editors on Friday, which today is less than a week ago. So it's like in the house, the forces are, yeah, we're like fully just, enjoying and relaxing now. But they say it's like that a book is like a baby, but I actually think writing a book is like if you had to go through labor for like 9 months, like just the labor part, and then afterward, like all the fun stuff happens. So it's like the reverse of having a baby in my mind. But yes, we're very excited. It's coming out in spring of 2024.
Oh my goodness, that is so exciting. I love what you said about writing in 7 minutes and small drips because my book, I did 50 challenges before I turned 50. And one of the things I always tell people is it starts with very small steps. And those little things add up, like the 7 minutes
Yeah.
of writing. It just
Yeah.
don't give up.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, and I think it becomes, to your point, it becomes a lot more manageable when you think about that. And it might not happen that way. Again, I mentioned like there were plenty of days I wrote more, but I think sometimes your brain stops yourself with those expectations so much. If you think like, oh, I have to set aside 4 hours today to write, you're never going to do it. But if you say, all I need is 10 minutes, then you might find that time that you needed later, but you've been able to kind of convince yourself like, yeah, this is doable. I can do this and actually get started.
So if people are listening, and I know you have 50 chapters or 50 cities where you have wonderful meetups. What's the best way for someone to get involved? Obviously, you have the Creator Summit, you have the Travelers and the Wanderfest. When someone comes to the site, what are they finding? How do they get involved? What's the best step?
Yeah. So everything related to Wanderful can be found at our website, which is sheswanderful.com. That's SHES Wanderful with an A.com. And that will connect you to our membership. There's a monthly fee for members. You can be a travel member, you can be a creator member where you actually get support on your career as a content creator. There's a small business membership. And then it also lists out all of our local hubs around the world, our global events, our trips. So everything that's going on there, you can find right on our website.
That's amazing. And what about people that are listening to you that you're a serial entrepreneur, you've done so many things and they think I have a small business idea. Like what do you have any recommendations for someone that's thinking about it but hasn't really taken too much action?
Yeah, I think, the first thing you want to do is you really want to just research the market and understand, is my idea viable? Now, I actually in the back in the history books, I actually taught social entrepreneurship at a university. And one of the things that you learn in entrepreneurship is never ever start with the answer first. Don't ever just say, I have an idea for a cool travel backpack that does X, Y, and Z, because you're not looking at it from the problem. And you should always think about your business as what is the problem that's out there that my business is solving for? So I'll say, if you have an idea, I want you to actually take a step back and think about what problem is my idea solving for and really get deep and dirty with that problem, like really understand it in its nuances. Why are people facing this? Who is facing this problem? What have they been trying to do that hasn't been working? And that might actually change your idea around a little bit more. And then I think after that, what you want to do is research and see, is anyone else already doing this? And if it's not, widely used across the board, I think you have a really compelling idea that you could move on. And I think that there's a lot of pressure now to just drop everything and start a business and, leave your full-time job and take the leap and take the plunge. And I see absolutely no harm in doing this part-time in working your 9 to 5 and working on this business after hours or during your lunch break or whenever you have time for it, because it does take a lot of time and energy to really make this into a career and to make money from it. And so, unless you come from a place where money isn't an issue, you should really be thoughtful about, how much personal investment you're putting into this, both financial, but also time, and not give yourself the pressure of, I just have to dive in and that's the only legit way to do it. You can do this at any pace, just like writing a book. You can do this at any pace you want to do. So those would be my primary pieces of advice.
Oh my goodness. That is such good advice. Now I want to take business class with you. Do you have workshops? Is that on the Wanderful site?
I used to. I haven't done it in a while. I've gotten busy. But I used to do actually a thing that I created a couple years ago called Prosperity Circle that who knows, I might bring back at some point, but it was kind of like, it was like your mini MBA. It was like everything I learned getting my business degree that I think is like actually really super useful for people building like digital companies and communities and kind of, modern day businesses like this, and especially in travel. And we had a good group going, but yeah, teaching takes a lot of work. So, and a lot of, I wanted to really give my students like all the attention they deserved, and remembering everybody's business in addition to running my own business was a lot, but maybe one day I'll bring it back, Lisa.
And we didn't, is there any preview you can give us? Is some of this business acumen in the book? Is the book a memoir? It's a business book? It's a
It is.
combination?
It's a great question. It is this is kind of how I say it, part manifesto, part self-help guide, part memoir, and very little memoir part, actually. I think a lot of the concepts that I talk about, I will base them in my own real life experiences as a traveler. But this is the book that I wish somebody had handed to me when I first started traveling alone. And the book talks not just about, how to do it. I actually don't talk a whole lot about, the hard tips along the way, though I do some, but it also talks about some of the broader issues that women face when they travel for the first time and maybe are unprepared for. Some of those things like gender dynamics in new places, your identity, the realization that you've been treated a certain way in your own home city your whole life, and then you go into a new place and you realize, wow, people look at me different here, they perceive me different, or they expect things differently from me. We talk a lot about sexism, we talk a lot about safety. I'm saying we, like all of us, I talk a lot about being aware of the impact that you make as a traveler when you go somewhere. And I talk about reentry and the really complicated feelings that come out of coming home and realizing that you feel different. And a lot of that feeling is internal, and a lot of people might not see it on the outside. And how do you reconcile that? And so it's really like a very kind of honest, supportive, real talk nonfiction about the things that people aren't telling women when they prepare to travel the world, who travel is for, why travel should be for everyone, why it's not always marketed that way, and hopefully giving women the confidence and the enough information to feel like, yeah, they can do this and they can take that next step toward that travel life that they've been wanting for themselves.
Well, the book sounds amazing. Can you tell us the name and when can we pre-order it?
It's called Wander Woman. It's actually available for pre-order now. So you can find it on Barnes and Noble. You can find it at Target. You can find it on the publisher is Grand Central Publishing, which is a Hachette company. So you can find it on the Grand Central Balance website. That's the imprint. And yeah, and you can, I think, do I have it linked on my website? I sure hope I do, but I might not yet. But it's all coming out, and we'll do a lot more promo for it over the months ahead.
Oh my goodness. Well, you are such an inspiration. I know I read on your website that 85% of travel decisions are made by women, and you're providing so much information and inspiration for people to go travel, to be business owners, to take credit for all they do as, chief executive of the family. And I just have really so enjoyed spending this time with you. I so appreciate it. And I just wish you so much health and happiness with all of these incredible additions that are coming into your community and your company, the cafe, a child, the book. You definitely are a wonder woman.
Thank you, Lisa. No, it's been a real pleasure, and I'm, looking forward to. Oh, I've got your book in my hands. I haven't started reading it yet because I've been waiting. So I can't wait to dig in myself.
Well, before I let you go, just as a last question, I've been asking people since my book Bravish is about challenges. I'm not sure there's anything else because we've talked about a lot of things that you have taken on, but maybe instead of a challenge you hope to accomplish, maybe you could talk about a time when you didn't feel so courageous or brave, but you had to take a step anyway.
Oh my gosh. That's so let me start with this, which is I think a lot of people misunderstand what bravery and courage are. I think we think to ourselves that being brave means you're not afraid. And I think being brave means that you're very afraid and that you do it anyway. And I also believe that if there's something that makes you nervous, that is a signal that you should do it. that you should try it because I don't know, life is short and we only have so much time to make mistakes. And I tell my husband, I'm like, there's always, now it's not as funny because we have a cafe, but I'm like, there's always Starbucks. Like there's always something that you can do. And so I have been much more of a risk taker, I think, in my professional life than maybe a lot of people would be, because I just have this kind of way of being like, whatever, there's always Starbucks. But but I think all of it scares me. And, all of it. I mean, I actually think, especially as a parent, it becomes a lot scarier because you realize how much, I could eat ramen every day and, not have any quality of life, but I'm not going to let my kids live like that. And I think it's really terrifying to step into the place of trying to make a business work and also trying to be a parent. And in our American system, there's not a lot of support for parents of any kind or caregivers of any kind. And so you do feel very alone doing a lot of that, even if you are parenting with a partner or a big family. So I think that has definitely been, the most challenging part of my career to date is finding, the unique ways to balance that, to push back against the system, to push back against expectations of professionals, of professional women, and still asserting that I can have it all, that I don't have to choose, the way I want to live my life, and that plain and simple fact, I think, has been something that every day is like absolutely terrifying, but yet it's almost like you don't have a choice. You really don't have a choice either. So you just keep pushing forward.
Well, thank you so much. I am inspired, and I think everybody listening is inspired that all the risks that you've taken and all these seeds that you have planted have bloomed into this incredible garden. And I can't wait to be at Wanderfest and see you at Women in Travel Summit. And just thank you, and we wish you the best.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Likewise.